Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that every word you've ever known is gone. You can still see, you can still hear, you can still think, but language itself has vanished. Your phone is filled with meaningless symbols, street signs become useless, books turn into random marks on a page. Someone tries to warn you about danger, but their words sound like noise. For a moment, the modern world begins to fall apart. And that's not surprising. Language is so deeply woven into our lives that most of us never stop to think about it. It's how we teach children, how we pass on ideas, how we coordinate with strangers, how we store knowledge. It feels so essential that it's hard to imagine human life without it. But for most of human history, there was no language, at least not language as we know it today, yet somehow our ancestors survived, not for a few generations, not for a few thousand years, for hundreds of thousands of years. They hunted enormous animals, they raised children, they made tools, they crossed continents, and they did it all before the world had words. Which raises the question, how? The obvious assumption is that early humans simply couldn't communicate very well, but that assumption comes from a modern perspective. We tend to think communication and language are the same thing. They're not. Communication is far older than language. Long before humans spoke in sentences, they could express fear, danger, excitement, and intent. You don't need words to know when someone is terrified. You can see it in their face. You can recognize it before you've even consciously processed it. Imagine a group of humans moving through a forest hundreds of thousands of years ago. One of them suddenly freezes. Their eyes widen. They point toward the bushes. Immediately, everyone stops. No words, no explanation, just communication. This ability, directing another person's attention towards something important, is known as joint attention, and humans are exceptionally good at it. A human child will follow a pointing finger more naturally than an adult chimpanzee. That might not sound impressive until you realize what it allows. A hunter showing where the herd is moving, a mother showing her child which berries are safe, a group noticing smoke on the horizon, a toolmaker demonstrating where to strike a stone. All of that can happen without a single word. In fact, even today, after thousands of years of language, some things are still easier to show than explain. Try describing how to ride a bicycle to someone who's never seen one. You could talk for hours, or you could demonstrate it in 10 seconds. Sometimes a movement contains more information than a sentence. So humans were already teaching each other long before they had words, already passing knowledge from one generation to the next, already building something that looked a lot like culture. But that success was quietly creating a problem. Because as groups grew larger and knowledge became more complex, imitation started to show its limits. How do you demonstrate a plan for tomorrow? How do you show someone a warning about a place they've never visited? How do you imitate something that happened years ago? You can show a spear being made. You can't show why the valley to the east is dangerous in winter. And then, there was a deeper problem. Knowledge was mortal. Imagine the best toolmaker in your group discovers a better design. For years, that knowledge gives your group an edge. Then one winter, they die. And unless they manage to pass on everything they knew, a lifetime of experience vanishes with them. This happened over and over again throughout human history. Knowledge would appear, spread a little, then disappear. Humanity wasn't suffering from a lack of intelligence. The planet was already full of intelligent humans. The problem was that intelligence couldn't accumulate. Each generation inherited some knowledge, lost some, added some, lost more. Progress moved forward, but slowly, like trying to fill a bucket with holes in the bottom. And the more successful humans became, the worse the problem got. Groups grew larger, knowledge became more complicated. The amount of information that needed to be shared kept increasing, until eventually, gestures and imitation began to struggle under the weight of it all. Some ideas needed to be described. Some ideas needed symbols. Some ideas needed words. And while nobody knows exactly when language emerged, what matters is what it allowed humans to do. For the first time, information could move independently of direct experience. You no longer had to see something happen to learn from it. You could be told. A child could learn from a hunt they never witnessed. A hunter could learn from a mistake they never made. A group could prepare for dangers that weren't even present. Knowledge could travel across people, across distance, across time. And once that happened, something shifted. Before language, each generation was building with loose stones. They could add to what came before, but much could be lost. Language changed that. Now each generation could lay foundations for people they would never meet. A better strategy survived. A better tool survived. A better idea survived. Instead of being rediscovered over and over again, knowledge could be preserved and improved and passed on. For perhaps the first time in history, humanity had a memory larger than any individual brain. So what did humans do before language? Most of the things we do today. They communicated, they learned, they taught, they cooperated, they raised children, they passed knowledge from one generation to the next, long before the first words were spoken. Language didn't arrive because humans were helpless without it. Humans were already remarkably capable. Language arrived because those abilities had become too successful. The amount of knowledge humans possessed was growing faster than existing methods could handle. And so, the most important thing language created wasn't communication. It was continuity. Ideas no longer had to die with the people who created them. A discovery made by one person could survive their lifetime. A lesson learned by one generation could benefit the next. Knowledge could compound. One generation building on another, one idea supporting the next, stretching across centuries, then millennia. Every scientific discovery, every invention, every civilization, every piece of knowledge you've ever learned exists because humans found a way to send ideas into the future. Language didn't make humans intelligent. It allowed intelligence to accumulate, and once ideas could outlive the people who created them, civilization became inevitable.